Thank you.
Well, Jesse, it's great to have you back here. And if I'm not mistaken, that shiny thing is one of your many Super Bowl rings.
Well, it was nice back then, but it's time for us to get a new one.
Jesse, you still work for the 49ers, but again, you played in all of those Super Bowls. What one stands out the most out of the many Super Bowl, the 4 victories that you had?
Well, they're all very special. But I think the very first one has a unique excitement about it. You know, because you think back to your Pop Warner days, and there's a lot of kids that want that opportunity. And growing up in Hawaii, you know, it's so far removed from the life in the NFL, and when I won my first one, it felt so special. By the time I won my 4th one, I was thinking, we were all thinking as a group that we don't want to ever be forgotten. And it came true, because when you talk about dynasty, the 49ers in the conversation.
Jessica, I don't know if you guys know this, I mean, he's one of just 6 49ers who has 4 Super Bowl rings. One of just 6 guys. I mean, it's a big-time player we have sitting up here on the stage with us. I mean, you played with some of the all-time greats, and Joe Montana as a young buck, and then Steve Young. You helped break him into Elite One Super Bowls with both those quarterbacks. When you see a guy right now like Colin Kaepernick and what he's been able to do for your franchise, how does Kaepernick compare to what you see, who you played with, some of the greats, and Joe and Steve Young? Are you surprised that he's been able to take this league by storm in the second half of the season?
Well, I'm surprised from the standpoint that he's developed quicker than we thought. I'm not surprised talent-wise, because, you know, Alex Smith, we benched him after he went 20 for 22 against Arizona. But we knew that the upside of Kaepernick would increase our chances of going to the Super Bowl, and that has come true so far.
How great is it for you to see the Niners organization back in the spotlight after all the success that your Niners teams had?
I'm very excited. You know, last year we came out of nowhere. There was no off season, and Jim Harbaugh and his coaching staff did a nice job, and to see the excitement back at Candlestick was something that I was so very happy about.
Now, you're also here signing books. You've got a book that just came out recently. Tell us about the book.
Well, you know, I grew up here with a torn aortic valve. I developed rheumatic fever as a young boy, and that enlarged my heart all those years that I played. But this is before technology. You can get away with going to just a regular doctor that's not a specialist and got on the football field. So there's a lot of kids that die now just playing recreational basketball because they didn't know they had enlarged hearts. So hopefully my story can help them be aware of it and get it treated.
How great is it for you, having grown up here, went to Barrington High, played at Hawaii, that this event, this is going to be the 33rd year that the Pro Bowl has been held here in Hawaii and Honolulu, and there's talk that, you know what, it might not come back. What would it mean to this community for the Pro Bowl to not be here?
You know, when I look at the Pro Bowl, I look at like season ticket holders. You know, they're generational seats, and to me, the Pro Bowl is a generational thing here in Hawaii. Don't be the generation that loses a Pro Bowl, because it's been here for over 30-something years. Hawaii made it popular, it made it hip. You know, I understand that some of the players didn't play very hard last year, but you know, Roger Goodell's trying to correct that. But the Pro Bowl, this is its home, and it deserves to be here.
You were a 2-time Pro Bowl selection, so you've taken part in this game as well. What was your experience like playing in this game?
Well, that was one of my goals. Once I started winning Super Bowls, one of my goals was to have a chance to come back and play at Aloha Stadium, and I was able to do that, and thank God for that, because that's one of the proud moments in my career.
Fun to mix it up a little bit with other guys in the league and pick their brains about some of their skills, tell great stories, and be able to spend some time with them?
Yeah, you know, it's making them understand that the game is a special game. The game is a lot more than going out there and pounding your head and hurting each other. There's a lot of life lessons that you can learn from this great game, and hopefully that the players of today can be role models to where the young kids can look up to and enjoy playing the game of football.
What is it about Jim Harbaugh that makes the 49ers so good so soon? I mean, as a rookie head coach, not a lot of people expected that success. He develops Alex Smith into a better quarterback than he was previously, and then this year with Kaepernick. How was he able to do that?
Well, he's a player's coach without really being a player's coach. He's disciplined in his own way. And I tell people, sometimes he does some crazy things, like when we didn't get the call last week against Atlanta, he started throwing, his hands all over the place. We talk about the handshake in Detroit. He's just a genuinely goofy guy. But it's a goofy guy that players enjoy playing for, and they believe in him. And for that reason, they feel like they can run through that wall for him.
I know who you're pulling for the Super Bowl, but I want you now, I want you to put your blinders on for a second, and I want you to scout the Baltimore Ravens for me and what they've been able to accomplish under John Harbaugh in his 5 seasons in the league. He's been to the playoffs every year and already has 8 postseason victories. I mean, this is going to be a tough one, Jesse.
It is, and it's not like we're playing an organization that has never won it. And when they won it, they still got their leader, and they're playing with a lot of emotions because of that great leader in Ray Lewis. But I think with the new zone read, that we're able to use Kaepernick and that extra threat, instead of the first time we played him a year ago when Alex Smith sat in the pocket, they can't just unload on us. And I think that might be the difference in the game, is that Kaepernick can make some big plays for us.
When you played in the NFL on the offensive line, what defensive lineman do you remember the most as far as either a tough opponent or just memorable plays or games throughout your career?
Well, one of the best, to me, the best defensive lineman I ever played against was the late Reggie White. He was both strong and quick, and he's one of those guys that you don't get 8 hours sleep the night before the game. The other guy is, I know the fans have a different image of him, but he was a great, great player from the Dallas Cowboys, is Leon Lett. Leon Lett was 6'8". I grew up in Hawaii. I'm only 6'3.5", and I tried my best to get my hands into him, and it wasn't the easiest thing to do. And every time I played him, it was for a big, big game to go to the Super Bowl. So those were some real good competitive matchups for me.
You played 13 years, all with the San Francisco 49ers, were part of that organization from 83 to 97. Ray Lewis, as a middle linebacker, has played 17 seasons in the National Football League. How difficult is what Ray has accomplished in terms of just longevity in the National Football League at the position that he plays, and what kind of respect do you have for his game and his style?
Well, first of all, I have the ultimate respect for Ray Lewis now, because he went through some adversity personally early in his career, and he's able to turn it around. Life is about people that make mistakes and realizes it and change their ways, because the young kids can look up to him. If you're mistake-free, like some of the negative news coming out now, while Ray Lewis was this and that, we all made mistakes. But Ray Lewis is the one that corrected his ways. But as far as the longevity with that position, it speaks volumes as far as his work ethic and his mental toughness to be able to survive in the NFL that long.
We have heard stories about Brett Favre in the huddle, things he would say, and I'm sure there was some funny or memorable things that were said when Joe Montana was the quarterback in the huddle. Some things in the Super Bowl we've heard. Tell us about Joe Montana in the huddle.
Well, Joe's cool. I mean, one of the things about Joe is when the pressure is on, he makes the whole huddle feel like we're just playing touch football down the street. He has that persona of keeping everything in perspective. I remember one time we were playing the Chicago Bears in the 80s when they were 11-1, we were 11-1, and he came up to me and he says, "Jesse, there's trillions of people in China that really don't give a hoot about this game." And it made you relax and go out there and let it loose and play your best football.
And speaking of Joe Montana, I mean, the coach who you both played for, and Bill Walsh, I mean, he was responsible. I mean, Bill Walsh drafted you. Talk about just the legacy that Bill Walsh has left on the game of football and what it was like for you as a player to be coached by him.
Well, Bill Walsh is nicknamed the genius because he was one of those coaches that when it's 3rd and 1 or 2nd and 1, he would throw to a fullback and gain a 1 yard that way. The old way of playing football is You play percentages. If it's 3rd and 1, you pound it up the middle. Bill wants to win against the grain. The other thing with Bill is his ability to insert minority coaches and push them forward so that they can have an opportunity to become head coaches in the National Football League. And a minority program that's been adopted by the NFL was started by Bill Walsh.
As Fran mentioned earlier, you played your whole career in the NFL. Not too many people do that for so long and with one team. Did you ever have any thought among those dozen or so years, 13 years, about ever changing uniforms?
I had an opportunity, but like I said, it's so special and so very hard to say that you had one uniform on your back, and that's something that was important to me. So the extra year and the money wasn't worth me coming back. And I'm very, very proud to say that the only uniform that I ever wore was that of the San Francisco 49ers.
Want to get your thoughts? There you go. That just definitely deserves a big round of applause. 4-time Super Bowl champ. Want to get your thoughts on a lot of the focus now on the rules, especially for the defensive players and all the hard hits, and the NFL trying to clean up the hard hits to the head, hits to the neck area region of defensive players. You hear a lot of current players who are upset about the new rules because it's costing them big bucks in fines, but then of course you have thousands of former players who are now coming out and saying that because of playing football, that's why they're having the difficulties that they're having now today. Do you think the NFL is doing the right thing in trying to take steps to help educate and protect players?
Well, you know, there's a lot of different loopholes as far as that question is concerned, because I'm an offensive guy, but I believe that some of those clean hits that we see defensive players make, you know, now are getting flagged. You know, I know that Roger Goodell's trying to keep the game safe, but it's getting to the point where we have to be concerned that a hard hit is now going to be flagged when it becomes a hard hit, whether it's legal or not. I'm one that played in the old school. As far as concussions, I never really knew what a mild concussion was. It was either a concussion or a headache. And, you know, I'm glad that we're trying to protect the game. But for the players to sue the NFL now, I mean, who's to say what about the players that got concussions in college? What about the players that got concussion in high school and are now playing in the NFL? Is the NFL responsible for that? It's a mixed bag. To me, personally, I think the NFL should do everything in their power to take care of the retired guys. But as far as us suing the NFL, I don't agree with that.
Well, Jesse, we wish the 49ers good luck next week. Always love having you back in Hawaii. Thanks for joining us. Give it up for Jesse Sapolu.
First for 6, baby.
Well, our next guest joined the NFL in the 1993 draft and went on to an amazing 15-year career.